All right. Going live in three, two, one. Well, this is episode number 2 of the Anna Hummel Factor, and we're going to bring on Anna for this evening. How are you doing, Anna?
I'm doing much better now, but it was a hell of a week, I'll tell you that much. So I do a show in the mornings. I have to wake up at 4:30 every day to be at work at 6, and it's not a job that you can really coast mentally. Like you have to be pretty engaged for 4 hours, and then I do an after show till about noon every day, sometimes longer. And every day this week has just been absolute bonkers after the show. So it was really stressful. We found out my boss, the Sponge, Bub Love Sponge, got sick yesterday, and that he wasn't going to be able to be in for the rest of the week. And
Oh,
so I had to host the show. Now, um, Bubba the Love Sponge is like a legend, and sure he's had like a fall from grace, but um, that's those are big shoes to try to fill, even if you're just the substitute teacher. And it was my first time hosting all 4 hours of the show. I'm the only one that really knows how to run the board very well, and the only one who can probably drive content. So, and I'm the newest member. Some people have been with him since '06, and I joined last June. So it was kind of weird to be the team captain for the day, and something that I wasn't really prepared for, because yesterday I went to a comedy show and got home really late. So my thinking was like, all right, I'm not going to get a lot of sleep, but it's okay. It's just one day. But it happened to be the day that I needed to be like kicking into seventh gear. So this morning I had to wake up extra early, and I went to bed extra late last night. So I was just kind of um, running on anxiety and caffeine to get me through, and it went really, really well. So I'm really, really happy. And then I came home and napped for like 3.5 hours. So I'm feeling refreshed right now. And then work got called off on Friday and Monday. So, I mean, there's nothing better than when you're so stressed and you're like, I need some time. And then you get it. You're like, oh my God. Is this what heroin feels like? Because it is amazing. So,
so you said there are other people on the show. Did anyone else like object? Like, hey, she's the newbie here. Why is she going ahead of me?
no, the other people on the show, well, one of them is like the tech guy, so he has to be he's in a different room, and he has to be because he's running all of the equipment. And then there's the two other guys don't know how to run the board, and they don't know how to drive content. So it's so different, the different dynamics. Like there's not really a much of a different dynamic between like seat 2 through 5, say. So if I'm like the first co-host versus the second co-host, I might be chiming in more as the second co-host. But when you are in the host chair and you have to be bringing people into break, bringing the team out of break, and that's just with like the buttons, and then you have to let the music play for a little bit and say, "Hey, everybody, welcome back. You're listening to Bub Love Sponge Show. If you're just tuning in, blah blah blah." Like there's a certain like loose script I feel like you have to be accustomed with, because otherwise, you think about it, you're just like, "Hey, hello, we're the show start." You have to be kind of smooth with it, and I have been doing it for some time, and I host my own show, so I'm kind of used to bringing people in and out and stuff. But I'm very comfortable when it's my own show with my name on it, or something that is mine. I don't mind fucking that up. But when it's has someone else's name on it, that's really when I get nervous. So it was a little nerve wracking, but I got some really, really good feedback. And usually, when I feel the most, and I don't know if you're like this, I've trained myself to be like this, but when I feel really anxious about something, and my gut does not want to do it, I don't want to host. I like being seat 2 or 3. When I don't want to do something, I know that's usually when I need to do it the most, right? Because it's a challenge. All those stupid quotes where it's like nothing grows in the comfort zone, like all that bullshit. It really is true. And I always tell people, like, I was talking to my buddy last night about it, and I say, it's good experience, but it's not going to be a good experience. It's like one of those things where you have to challenge yourself and it's going to be uncomfortable, but you're going to be glad you did it, because at the end of the day, like, I'm like, fuck, I just hosted a 4-hour show and I did it. Like, there were some glitches, but what minor shit, but I did it. And that gives you confidence to be like, I could do that again. I could do that again. I could do it, full time in a few years, whatever. So, I think it's really important to lean in when you want to run away.
So the what's going to be on the show? Is it just off? Are they going to do like a best of for the next couple of?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
just a replay. Exactly. Yeah. And I was unaware of this. I was told we had Monday off, but I forgot. Like, I never forget days off, trust me. So when someone was like, "Yeah, we have Monday off," I was like, "Oh, we do have Monday off." And then it was called off. Tomorrow was called off as well. Earlier today. So I was like, "Oh my God, do I have a surprise 4-day weekend?" Like, I was so tired and exhausted. And as soon as the show ended, it was weird. Like, the energy drops, everything dropped. I had some coffee and I could have fallen asleep. Like, my body was so ready just to die, just because I was really stressed. And last night was a little stressful. We went to a comedy show and there was some trouble getting there. So I was really stressed out, but I feel so at peace right now. I can't tell you. And my roommate's gone. So I'm like, I got the house to myself. So it's the little things really that do it for me.
So what about the roommate's cat?
Yes, the cats are with me. The cats are with me. So, but they're fine. They're sweethearts. And I
Oh,
think I told you this. I'm not even like really or never claimed to be a cat person, but these little nuggets have stolen my heart. So,
oh, really? Okay.
yeah.
I thought you. I didn't think you liked cats. To be honest, the way you.
I didn't, but you live with them and you get used to them, and they have their little personalities, and you talk about them like they're people, and it's very sweet. They're very sweet animals. So I've changed my tune.
Okay. If you were to come to my place sometime and you were to see my cats, they would probably be afraid of you, but it would be nothing personal. They're afraid of everybody. So
Okay. Well, I
you
appreciate the heads up.
no, talking about the idea of going in and doing something and being afraid to do it, I can actually relate to that. That's when I started my own business. So I know what it's like to, in that sense, because I was like, I didn't really want to do it, but at the same time, I had to do it because there
Right.
was no way I had to, there was no way to advance my career where I was at. So I said, okay, well, let me just go ahead and do this. And if I fail, I fail. If I don't, I don't. At least I'll give it a
Right.
shot.
At
So,
least you tried. Like, I love that idea of like, you know what, this I may shit the bed, but at the end of the day, I can say at least I tried. Most people don't even give it that much. So good for you.
yeah. So and it's going to be a regular thing for you whenever something comes up. You'll be the main host.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I like the fact that being a person that someone can rely on to not just get the job done, but to step up and be a leader. And I really had to kind of change my tune because I was going into it being really nervous. And it's like, think about if you're getting on a plane and the pilot is like, "This is my first time. I'm kind of scared." Like, no one is going to have confidence in that person. So you kind of have to do a little reverse Willie, as we say, where you have to fake the funk. You have to be like, you have to present as very calm and we're going to get through this, even though upstairs in your head you're like, holy fucking shit, there's thousands of people listening and they want Bubba the Love Sponge and I'm not him and I'm never going to be him. And they're more than happy to tell you that you fucking suck, where's Bubba. That's why I repeat over and over again through the show, if you're just tuning in, Bubba's sick. I'm not trying to be an asshole. This is a personal favor I'm doing for him. So I just told myself usually right before I get really nervous and we're about to go live, I go like literally have like a 8 mile in the mirror pep talk with myself where I'm like, hey, it's just fucking radio. At the end of the day, no one is going to die if you forget to push a button. This isn't heart surgery. No one's life is at stake. It's going to be just fine. Um, but yeah, I do think it's important in those moments to kind of, when you have to be a leader, you have to fake it because I need the other people to feel confident that I can do it. Because otherwise, I don't know if you've ever been to like a stand-up show and you've seen someone on stage that's nervous, or any
No,
performer, I suppose, but like it's uncomfortable to watch that as an audience member. So like the listeners can feel when you're nervous and you don't know what you're doing, and then your coworkers, and then they start acting, saying weird shit, trying to help you out. And so I presented like really calm, like we're gonna get through this. It's all good, because I need them to feel like they can trust me as like a driver, a leader, And it is interesting being like the youngest person there who's also female, and they're like, you have to lead, and I'm like, okay, I got to do this for the ladies. Let's go. So it's fun.
well, I got a small story to tell you about pressing the wrong button on
Okay.
radio and causing
Oh,
a
please do.
major problem. So you're saying most of the time it probably wouldn't matter if you press the wrong button, but I used to work for WTOP, which is the flagship station for the EAS, the Emergency
Hmm.
System. And I don't know if you know how the EAS works exactly,
I know
but
nothing, so
okay, when
teach me
there's
everything.
when they do tests all the time. I'm sure you've heard the test. This is a test of the emergency.
Oh, yes. Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so basically the EAS has to when it goes out, since they're the flagship station, I'm not sure if that's the right term to use, but they're the ones that are in charge of it for the DC area.
Yeah.
So whatever that is, the EAS goes out over other radio stations across the DC area that are not even owned by the same company.
Right.
So it overpowers their signal. So with the one night they had an anchor on she was young. I wasn't there when it happened. I just heard the aftermath, but she did the EAS and she did not she did not press the button to take us out of the alert system. So what ended up happening was WTOP's signal ended up going on other radio stations for at least 20 minutes, I think, maybe half an hour. I'm not sure.
Oh.
But she was never brought back on again to do the anchor position.
Oh no.
So that's one of those instances where pressing the wrong button was a major problem. So, or I should say lack
Yes.
of pressing the right button. So,
Yes. Yeah. I mean, all of that was crossing my mind as well, and you're sitting behind a board where, I mean, I probably about like 7 minutes before we started, I was like, wait, which one is it? What's is the buttons that we need to go to break with? Like, what's the button that controls this? What's the button? Like, I'm asking questions, like, as I'm queuing up the music to start, I'm like, wait, how do I run this board? So, because I know how to, I run the board for a different show, but we use way less of the like equipment. Let's just say, it's like
oh,
I use a third of it, and I can run that really well. But then when it's like, oh, there's all these other things that Bubba uses for his show, and I'm like, well, I don't know how to fucking do that. And so I come in 7 minutes early to like figure it out. And then it's like, okay, cue it up. All right, what's the button? All right, press that, and you'll figure it out. So it's one of those things that it definitely, I can feel, as like in the seat one, you are definitely burning a lot more glucose in the brain. Like you have to be so fucking alert. Like I know as a seat two or three, there are times where you can kind of, if they start talking about something, for example, like sports that I don't care about, and I know no one's gonna ask me for my opinion on whatever. Not that I completely zone out, but it's like your brain is like, okay, we're gonna take like a lie down, you know what I mean? And you're listening but passively, but you can't do that as a host because you got to be. I mean, I'm taking the calls, I'm bringing us in and out of break, I'm driving the content, I'm deciding what we're going to talk about next. All these sorts of things that you have to think about in addition to talking as well. So it was just it was very stressful, but it went well. We're good. Everyone was happy with it, so I'm pleased.
I, I'm surprised that there isn't like someone that just runs the board for the show instead. Has that ever happened, or is it Bubba that usually just runs the show himself? Run-
Bubba runs the show himself. It's very unusual for, usually if someone doesn't run their own board, it's that they're using somebody else's studio. So like the show that I run the board for on Tuesday nights is like a law show. So this lawyer comes in and people call in with questions. But
Hmm.
so he's the host, but he's not an employee there. Like he just does the show for fun because he enjoys it. But I think it's important for the host to run the board because you're the leader and you need to be the controller of the situation. You know, you don't want to have to make cues about when to go to break. You can just decide yourself to go to break and do it, you know, or if you want to add in a funny little sounder, like you can do it on your timing. You don't have to like cue someone else to do it. And I think it makes for a smoother show because there's no like communication with another person to get to do a task. It's just you just do it. So,
Mhm. Gotcha.
but
So, okay,
yeah.
well, that's pretty cool. I mean, you sound like you definitely have a lot of, you're obviously very excited about the whole thing. I can tell you're just bubbling over here with
I think
everything
I'm
that
just
you
so happy that it happened and it went really well, you know. I'm extremely critical of myself all the time. I'll never, ever, ever have a big head. And I remember when I first started working for Bubba the Love Sponge, he's like, "Oh, you know, some people they get a big head." I'm like, "Yeah, you don't have to worry about that with me." Like, I don't know what it is, but I'm just so critical of myself. And the fact that I can like sleep well tonight and be like, yes, I did it, and it was like a very decent job. Like it wasn't the most amazing radio you have ever heard, but it was like a very solid substitute, you know. So I just feel like, and again, this was something I was really nervous about and really anxious about, and it's like you're proving to yourself that you can do it. And now I have like this little bump of confidence it's fleeting. Trust me, I'll probably lose it all by next week. But I'm like, I did it, like, and it went well, and I feel so good. And I also took like a 3.5 hour nap, so I feel like my brain is at full capacity right now talking to you, which is nice because sometimes it's the end of my day, and I'm like, shit, I got to go to bed. But now I don't have work tomorrow, so I'm feeling really good going into a 4-day weekend. So it's
so
all
how would
good.
you equate this sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but,
Yeah, yeah.
how would you equate this to when you first started working on his show, on Bubba's show? How would you was the excitement level the same? Was any nervousness at all back then?
Well, I wouldn't even say it was nervousness. I would say it was dread. It was absolute dread. I hated being on the show probably for the first 2 to 3 months. It was uncomfortable. Then it started to get a little bit better, but it was still like up and down. And then I would say I only really started to really feel comfortable probably like maybe November, and it's getting better and better. Like now I feel I great on the show, very comfortable. But the first 3 months were probably a nightmare, absolute nightmare, because you have to remember like I'd just been fired. I was so used to doing that those other shows on the other station that I worked for. I was used to that rhythm. I was used to those people. I was used to the way we did things over there. And then I come to this new place, and Bubba is, I mean, he's from a different generation of radio, shock jock stuff. And like this, like right behind Howard and like Opie and Anthony, I would say is Bubba Love Sponge in terms of if you're into radio history and stuff, like Bubba Love Sponge was like fucking crazy. He was doing the crazy stunts with the chicks and the tits and the strippers and the porn stars, all that stuff. So now that we're moving into kind of like a new era of like what is appropriate, what's not, he doesn't get the porn stars anymore. He gets me. So trying to find my place and how I would fit and the chemistry was extremely challenging at the beginning because it was like a hazing process. That's exactly what it felt like is I was getting severely hazed because I was new, because I was a girl, because I'm kind of quirky and weird. So it's like, what the fuck are we gonna do with her? And it really felt like that for about 3 months because all he wanted to do was like talk about like sex stuff, like my sexual life and the sex, and I'm like just like a fucking square. So I don't like talking about myself and about shit like that. I'm more than happy to talk about sex in general or other people, but I get really conservative and reserved when it comes to talking about myself in those ways. And he would just try to squeeze water out of a stone. And he'd get really frustrated, and I would get really frustrated because I was just like, why? There's so much more to me than that. Like, why are we even talking about that? I want to talk about the JFK assassination. Why are we talking about if I like blank, blank, blank in bed? Like, so that was just a nightmare because on the other show that I was on, and I loved this about that place, I was just another person on the show. I was not a chick. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not a chick. I'm not saying I'm like, oh, I'm non-binary, but it was never like Anna, the resident chick. It was just like Anna, the person on the show. Then when I went to Bubba, it was like, you're the chick. And I'm like, but I'm not the right one. Like, I'm not the one you want. Like, I'm not the phone screener, like big titted blonde bimbo. You're not going to like what you're getting with me. And they tried to kind of test my boundaries probably every day for 3 months. And it was just kind of a nightmare. But eventually he got bored with it because nothing was coming of it, and he switches gears, and now I'm just the weird person with I have a lot of weird quirks, and so he kind of focuses on that more than anything else. So
I'm glad it's working out for you at that point. I mean,
yeah,
did you
me
feel like
too.
leaving? Did you feel like leaving at first?
No, because I knew I did not have another option. I got fired. I was blacklisted from most places, so this was my only option, and I had to make it work. And I guess I kind of just thought I'm going to try to use this as like a launching pad to something else. But in the meantime, I have to work here and I have to learn how to make it work. But now, and full seriousness, this is the most fun I've probably ever had in my life at a job. Easily, easily. I'm having the best time. It's so much fun. It's a circus. There's rules, but very few, and it's not corporate radio. So I can get away with so much more here. And I'm like, you were never built for corporate radio, Anna. Like, you were fired for a reason because you didn't, it's like, what is it, like a square peg in a circle hole or whatever. Like, I could not, I kept getting in trouble because I just was not made for corporate anything. So now it's the Wild West. And yeah, there was certainly a hazing process that was uncomfortable, but I pushed through it. I'm like, it's going to get better. And it did. And it got better. Like, making way more money. I get much better bonuses. I have better connections. I have better opportunities. I have more time on air. Like, everything is just better. So yeah, I just had to make it through the storm.
That's good. I wasn't sure how profitable the show actually was. So, is he run it himself? Is he like does he actually deal with the stations and all that, or does he have like a?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. We have probably like 8 or 9 affiliates. And again, not big sexy stations, a lot of AM, stuff, but we make the majority of our revenue on Twitch, which I think I told you about. With the people are so confused because it's for gamers, but we use it as a streaming service, and people donate bits, and we call the bits out when they donate over a certain amount, and it's been working really, really well for us. We have just like maybe a group of 70, 80 people that keep the lights on for us, that pay all of our wages and give us bonuses. Like, people donate a shit ton of money. I still am confused, like, why people would spend thousands of dollars on a show, but they do, and they gift it. It's not like we charge people to listen. Everything's free, but people just donate these bits that, I mean, it's just insane that people donate thousands of dollars like it's no big deal just because they love Bubba, and they've been listening to him for 30 years, and they just crazy, crazy devout fans. So it's interesting.
Yeah, the only show I ever worked on was I don't know if I told you, was the Greaseman show, as far as like a shock radio show.
I think you mentioned that. I did hear about that.
Okay, and unfortunately, the Greaseman he was actually dying out in popularity, and they found an excuse to finally get rid of him. And once he got pulled off the air, he really never went back on. And this was before streaming was a thing. So if streaming had been a thing, he might have been able to get back on the air. He made some joke that was off color, and they used it more as an excuse to get him off the air because he was working for the same company as Howard Stern, and they wouldn't. That Howard Stern could the same thing at the time and gotten away with it. So it was one of those things where they were looking for a reason to get rid of him. So,
I call that
but
getting Megan Kelly'd.
Megan Kelly, But it was Megan
Yeah,
Kelly.
Megan Kelly made a comment about blackface, and her ratings weren't good to begin with. So they were looking for an excuse to fire her and get her out of there. And then when she made that comment, even though she apologized, they took her off the air. So I think that it was kind of a similar thing where they're looking for an excuse to get them out of there.
Right. That's the woman that's the former Fox host, right? And then she went over to
Correct.
another network.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. It took me a second to remember who she was.
Yeah. She had like her own show. It was more of like a talk show, panel kind of format. And then
Right.
she said something about like blackface, which it wasn't even like a controversial. She was just like, but what about people who did it? I think she even said like she did it, but she was like paying homage. She's like, well, what if I want to be like Diana Ross, and I love Diana Ross? Like, why is that bad? Like, she was like, you're paying homage to that person, and they're like, you're a fucking piece of shit. It's like, what? Shut up. So
Let's,
she got canceled.
the Greaseman's joke. I don't know if I told you the Greaseman's joke. So stop me if I've already told you this. But
No,
he
no,
went
no,
on.
go.
I had already left the show and had moved on to do other things because they couldn't afford to pay me anymore. They were, losing money, so I had to move on to something else. But I was still I kept in contact, and basically what happened was he went on the air. I think it was Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, and he said, if
Uh-oh.
Something to the effect, if they had shot 4 other black leaders, we'd have the entire week off. So,
Oh, yeah, I can't say that.
and of course, that they pulled him off immediately, and he was never back on again. So, uh,
Yeah. God. Yeah, that's pretty tone deaf. I mean, it's kind of like a little funny, but it's certainly tone deaf. When was this again?
oh, he was. I think it got pulled off in 1999. I think.
That
So
was
it's
something
been.
he got canceled for in 99.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
So,
wow. Okay. I
but
I wouldn't think that like 21 years ago, 2 years ago.
yeah. Well, remember I said he was. They were looking for a reason to get rid of him, though. So, um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I mean, he might not have actually said black leaders. He might have said if they got 4 other leaders got shot, something to that effect. He might not have used the word black, but
Right.
whatever it is, people got
Yeah.
the meaning of what it meant. So, and that was like, oh, that's it, and they pulled him off. So, the interesting thing is he made a lot of jokes that were talking where he talked about black people, which was he wasn't racist, but even his assistant producer was also black, and he understood the jokes.
Uh-huh.
So he
Right.
wasn't racist, but they were just looking, they said, well, that's a racial joke, so he's gone. So, but he did a lot of those kind
Yep.
of jokes all the time. It was very common. So it was just, they just picked this one example to say that was it. That's the final straw. Um, and the people that were on the show, I mean, when I started there, we had 3 stations. One was an FM station in DC, WARW. And there was I think he had like one station in Florida and another station in Blacksburg, Virginia, and then he lost those 2, and so he was down to the final station about the time I left, and
Hmm.
it was pretty obvious that they were, he was going to be going soon, and he's very funny, but he's also a kind of an acquired taste, so it's
Right.
more.
Most of them are. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more along the lines of his humor. I'm not a redneck, but his humor is more of a redneck kind of a quality of humor. So I liked him a lot,
Right.
but sometimes I was like, well, the jokes are a little too rednecky for me. So, but the one thing I was
Right.
found really funny was we had a live audience every morning, and so we had every time the people would come in, it was always white. I hate to draw race into this, but it was
But
the white rednecks were always there, and they're always hooting, hollering during the show. And the only time you saw people that were not white, they were usually military people or police officers. So as the standard thing where police officers have a more conservative look on things. Not always,
sure.
but it was in the military. So it was very funny to see military people come in. And it was always, like I said, the only time I ever remember seeing anybody that wasn't white, like black or Hispanic, um, they were always like a military type person or a police officer. So,
Sure.
but it was almost like all white people liked him, but only certain black people, if they were on maybe a certain kind of level, like say a police, the conservative type, which seems to be sometimes kind of rare in some situations. So, but the I still he did try streaming afterwards, and I just couldn't get into it because he was not the streaming. He did it I guess it was like on the beginning of streaming. Um,
Uh-huh.
it just never caught on, like 360 something. It was like one of those early streaming platforms that never it was popular for a short time. And there were people like Will Wheaton, who's a celebrity. He actually was listening to him and made some comments about him. So he was getting a small following, but it just died off. So it didn't really go anywhere. I don't think it would work nowadays for him. He's just been gone too long at this point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's hard to come back after you've been gone and out of the cultural consciousness for so long.
it's actually, if you're in radio at all and you leave, it's hard to just get back in at all. So
You know, that's very true, but I feel like I know the few people that have done it. Like there was a guy who left radio for like 4 or 5 years and was, I think he was like selling tickets for the Magic or the basketball team in Orlando, and then came back like with a vengeance. Like so, just really bizarre. And I feel like I know a few other people. Bubble was off the air for like a year or two or something like that too. So I feel like just these people that have taken time away, which is certainly a no-no, have come back. But you're certainly right. It's usually once you're gone, like you're, especially, here's the thing: if you leave on your own accord, if you're fired like me, that's kind of like a rite of passage. But if you leave to do something else, like usually you're not coming back. So
yeah, yeah. I'm not going to mention any names, but there was a person who was the head manager of a competing company that I used to work for, and he got laid off, and he's been coming to me periodically looking for a job in radio, and he has more experience than I have, and I'm running my own business, and he can't get a job in radio right now. So, I have no
how
story.
how long has he been looking?
I did it's see he got laid off at the same time I got laid off from a job back in 2011. So yeah, it's been almost about 9.5 years. So
And he's still coming. I mean, he must have some other job or
I'm sure he has something else going on right now. I'm
some
sure.
okay on the side, but he's still trying to like weasel his way back in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and when I
Oh
say
wow.
layoff, it was a merger between two companies. It was actually the company I worked for and the company he was working for. They got merged together as one. That we both got laid off at the same time. So, but
Uh,
I'd already started my business, so I had something to fall back on. So, he did not, and it's someone that with that level of experience, and he's actually well known in the DC market. So I was actually kind of surprised he didn't just bounce back to get something else, but he did not. Nobody hired him. So. It's
wow.
also kind of scary as to what radio is about. I mean, this is strictly traffic, like traffic and news and weather for radio stations.
He's itching to get back into that because that's his passion,
That's
or is that
say
just
that
the
again.
job that he left?
He was. I don't know if he did anything else other than that, but he was he was I, as far he would do he had like a comedy, like he'd do like small comedic roles for people, like certain radio stations they call up, and he would go on the air doing the traffic, and he'd do like a little voice every once in a while, like to be funny. So
Okay.
he was still doing traffic, but he would do like a character every once in a while with the on whoever was on air with him. So um so he did more than just the traffic. So he wasn't just like straight traffic. But yeah, I was just kind of surprised that I thought someone would just pick him up right away, and he never did. There's a lot of people that got laid off when that happened and never got work again.
Yeah.
And
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, but you're right. Once you leave on your own accord, you don't go back. But if you're like Bubba and you get fired from 10 places, or like Howard where you get fired, like that's usually a rite
well,
of passage.
well, Howard Stern's like a household name though, and Bubba is not as popular as Howard, obviously, but I'm saying is Howard, if Howard gets let go, I mean nowadays, I mean everyone knows who he is, so it's a little different. But yeah,
Sure, yeah, yeah, but I just feel like if you look at any of the greats, and obviously like Howard Stern is just on a level that nobody's at, but if you look at any of the greats, I mean, and even though Bubba may not be a household name, he's, I mean, in the Tampa, in I would say in Florida, pretty much everybody knows who he is. If they were living here in the 90s, early 2000s, they knew who that was, um, and those people, I feel like the people that were really pushing boundaries, that were kind of what's the word I'm looking for, like they were a big liability on the company they worked for, but they were making the company so much fucking money. Because I mean, Shock Jock radio, like the radio guys were like gods back in the 90s, in the early
Oh yeah.
2000s. I mean, they ruled the airwaves, the shock jocks. So, yeah, I would say those people, most all of them had been fired at least a few times, if not more. So me getting fired was kind of like, not, I'm clearly not a great, but it was kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, this is something that usually happens when you're making waves. But yeah, but if you leave on your own, that's usually when it's like, okay, this person they're done. Bye bye. Yeah.
That's interesting talking about the how popular things were because I worked on other talk shows at the time. I worked on another show called the Joe Madison Show. He's a local. He gets on the news every once in a while. He's more of a far lefty guy, so
Okay.
it was kind of funny. I worked on a show that was more for rednecks. I also worked for a show that's more for the lefties. So I was like in both perspectives, kind of. And Joe Madison was he was trying to get people to listen to his show. What he would do is he'd listen to one of the shock jock shows that were on in the area, and he would get ideas the next day and say, let's do this. He would purposely listen just to get more people to come in because he wasn't getting enough listeners for his show. So he himself was trying to get into that realm, but he never did. So I think he's still doing like satellite radio or something. I'm not sure. I don't really care. He was kind of a jerk.
I don't really care. Yeah.
But I just found it funny when you talk about how that era was going on. Like, I even heard, I can't confirm this. I'm not going to mention any names, but one of the higher ups at WTOP supposedly they were because the person I'm thinking of is a person I like and I actually respect in the business. But he supposedly was listening to one of the competing shock jock shows and was also getting ideas for that, even though WTOP was the number one station in the DC market. So I'm not sure why he would be doing that because they don't need to list. They don't need the ratings. They didn't need to compete against them. They were already
Right.
number one. So, but I don't know. I mean, it was that's how the shock jock era was just so popular that a lot of people at competing radio stations were just listening just to see what they were doing, and
Right.
they don't.
Yeah.
That's not even a thing anymore at all. So.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that. I was talking to my buddy, one of my best friends, Will, who I worked with for a few years at Cox before I got fired, but we're still very close. We kind of were talking about that the the generation right before us of radio, the Bubbas, Howard Stern, but he's a little bit older. Um, but the guys that are on the air now, it seems like are the last samurais. The business is changing too much, and terrestrial radio is certainly on its way out. Everybody's listening to podcasts, and in the digital space, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever. So terrestrial radio, means less. And I can't tell you how many times, when people ask me what I do, and I'm like, oh, I work in radio. They're like, oh, I don't listen, like, or I work in radio, and they'll say like, oh, I don't listen to the radio at all. Sorry, sort of a thing. And I'm like, okay, like, no problem. But I understand that, and especially now with the pandemic, and so many people either lost their jobs or work from home. Nobody's listening in their cars anymore, or not in the hours that they used to on a typical drive to and from work. So it's definitely changing, and it is kind of sad because you work so hard because you are trying to achieve a goal to make it in an industry that by the time you get there is completely dissolved. So what I'm really thankful for with Bubba is that, not that he lost everything, that's tragic, but I mean, what I will give to Bubba, and a lot of the things, and Bubba would say this too as well, a lot of the things that happened to him were his doing, his fault. A lot of things that happened to him was bad luck, and it wasn't his fault. But at the end of the day, what I can say about Bubba the Love Sponge is that man fucking refuses to lay down and die. Like, he will not fucking give up, and it's very inspiring. He got knocked off. He got blacklisted from Beasley, Cox, Cumulus, iHeart, like all those places. They never want him back, but he fucking figured out a way to do what he loves and make money and support a team. So, I mean, you got to give it to the guy for just being resourceful. And I'm learning a lot. Like, okay, yeah, we're not on FM radio in Tampa, but we're on Twitch, and we're killing it on Twitch. Even Twitch sees our numbers and is like, what the fuck? Like they don't get it. And to be honest, I don't really get it. I don't understand how people I've never met before are paying my paycheck, but they are. So it's really interesting to see, and it's so good because he's so forward thinking. He's not thinking about terrestrial, he's thinking about digital. And digital, you can reach obviously a lot more people, and it soon terrestrial will be gone for good, I think.
Uh,
So
I don't think so. I don't think it will be gone for good. The FCC is trying to keep that going right now. I don't think they want the businesses to collapse with the low power FM repeaters that they're trying to
mhm.
get. They won't even let AM radio die. I don't think it's going to die anytime soon. I really don't.
I I here's the thing. Maybe it won't die soon in terms of like they're not going to shut the radio off. It's You'll still have the stations, you'll still have the dial. But what they're doing is, I mean, I'm sure you heard about the massive slaughters that they've had at iHeart, where they just, I mean, I remember the beginning of last year. I mean, they fired like 2,000 people in a week. Like it was pretty crazy. What they're doing is streamlining it so that instead of having, I'm just using this as a broad example, 50 morning radio shows in 50 different states, they're going to have Ryan Seacrest syndicated in 50 states. And
Mhm.
that way they can fire and they don't have to pay all of the people that work on each team in each state. Um, they really canceled a lot of middle market people who've been on the air for like 30 years, say like in Louisville, like places like that, which aren't small cities but certainly aren't like Chicago and New York, LA. So that's certainly a trend that I'm seeing, is that they are trying to cancel people and get rid of people that they don't really need, and they can just kind of syndicate a few big name, the Breakfast Club, Ryan Seacrest, I don't know who else is on, Steve Harvey, stuff like that. So
Gotcha. Okay, so you're saying it's not the stations that'll die, it's just the radios, the owners are gonna die, cause everything to just dwindle down is what you're referring to. The people who run the
yeah, they're gonna
networks.
try to reduce like the overhead, and they want to. It's gonna all be all about like streamlining syndication. Everything's gonna be all. I'm probably I've heard the stories of the tapes, and you have to do you know I honestly don't know the equipment like the 8 tracks and shit. Like I don't really know. That's a little bit before me. But I hear tales of, oh, we had to put this on tape and then record it to that tape, and obviously we don't do that anymore. But even now, I mean, we used to have overnight board operators where I worked at Cox, and then within the last couple of years, they've gotten rid of those people, and then they'll have maybe one person running 6 stations, and then now they don't even have that. It's just
Mhm.
literally from one like midnight to 5 6 a.m. There's nobody there. It's just everything's automated, and then that's just going to kind of continue. There's going to just be more replays. There's going to be more. There'll be a few people that are going to murder, like the Seacrest, Steve Harvey, Breakfast Club, but then everybody else is going to be fucked. That, in my opinion, that's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So.
When you say 8-track, I assume you mean the old carts, right? Or do you mean the actual 8-track reel-to-reel players? I couldn't.
I don't even know what I mean. I literally have just heard that. And people will say it like in a very nostalgic way, like I remember when we had to do tape to the real. Like I'm just like, I don't even know what the fuck that even is. I've just heard people say it, so I'm just
Oh,
kind of parroting something I heard. But
okay, yeah, because when I was starting on radio, well, for the first, geez, probably 8 years of radio, I was definitely doing it all on tape. So
okay,
yeah,
see, yeah, exactly.
yeah, I'd be from that group of people. Yeah, in fact, when I was at WTOP, it was pretty funny. They were the number one station. Everything was on cart. I think that's the word you're looking for, is cart.
Maybe
It's
yeah.
like, it looks, yeah, the 8-track was modeled. The 8-track version that was sold to the public was modeled after the carts or cartridges that radio stations used, and everything was put on carts, and we had carts all over the place. So yeah, it was pretty funny. And by the time I left in 2004, was it 2005? That was 2005. I think they had phased most of that out. The reel to reels were gone. They were there when I first started, and it was really funny to see them all there, and it was constant, whenever the reels ran out, we had to put another reel on there so we could catch everything. It was, like, several feeds going all the time, and then it was the and even for a number one radio station to have all this equipment when you can, you think they would have invested more into that, but it was still a tape all over the place, like you said. So, and we also no, we didn't do any. I was gonna say we did some cut and splice, but we didn't do that. I did do cut and splice, where we actually edited we actually did our edits by cutting the tape and taping it back together or splicing it. I don't know if you know
Like
about
gene
that.
splicing. Yeah.
And that I did. I was doing that at when I was at a radio station called WRC when they were still a big AM station, big in the sense that they were very powerful. They're nothing
Hmm.
now. It's hardly anything. But I went in there and that's where I was like I was able to make all these great tracks by using a 2-track reel to reel and actually layer it down as if I was using like an 8-track or even maybe a 16-track system. And people were like, they were like, wow, that's really cool that you could do that. And then the funny part is they had a digital editor that they forked the money over for. It cost like $4,000. And I sat there and I learned it. So me and one other guy were the only two that learned it. And so I started using that and I got out of using the tape. And that's when the rest of the people there refused to use the digital stuff. They only wanted to use the carts, the tapes. So it was really I assume most of them have made the transition. The ones that are still in radio are still have made the transition to digital, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of them just couldn't make it because they were just so addicted to using tape. Just recording on tape all the time.
Interesting. Yeah.
So
Yeah, a little before my time, but I've certainly heard people throw the, like, I remember when guys is what I like to call them.
oh, yeah, I would never say that, but it's just kind of funny that you brought that in there because it was just there was a lot of that going on, and the fact I mean yeah, I mean it was very common all the way up until the early 2000s, so it wasn't too long ago. I mean, it was really surprising to see how many carts were still out there. Um, I actually when I was teaching, I actually had a chance to bring some of that stuff into the class because they were still teaching tape. I don't know if you know this, but in the recording industry, a lot of people still
Hmm.
use tape. In fact, some
Still?
people prefer they prefer tape instead of digital. I don't know if you know that. Um,
Wait,
and the
where?
reason in the recording industry, like records,
Oh.
like when you
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
yeah, not radio, but the recording industry, like like people
Gotcha.
record labels. Certain artists will not record unless they can use tape, and the reason it's not because they're like they can't adapt. It's they have no problems adapting to something new. The thing is they don't switch to digital because digital takes away the warmth of the audio. So what you're left with
Interesting.
digital audio really takes away a lot of the actual warmth. I mean that if you listen to it closely, you actually can hear that there's because what happens is when you have a digital audio waveform, it's like little digital steps, like little blocks, and so it's like and the more even though no matter how much you increase the resolution, how many small blocks of audio you have in there, it still takes away that niceness, the quality that's there. So they prefer the
Yeah.
tape.
Interesting.
So, one of the examples is the Grateful Dead. I'm not sure if they still make any music or not. I'm not sure if they're what they're doing, but
I thought
the Grateful Dead.
Jerry Garcia was
Yeah,
dead.
yeah,
No?
he's dead, but I'm not sure if the rest of the band is doing anything. I don't know if they're
I
still
thought
doing anything
everyone was
anymore. I'm not,
dead. But what do I know?
I I
I
do.
cannot even tell you a Grateful Dead song. I
Oh,
don't even
really?
know
Oh,
one.
okay.
I know they're a band. I know they did a lot of drugs in the 60s. I cannot even name a single song.
I um I can I if I hear them, I couldn't tell you the names, but I could tell you the songs if I heard them. So, um, but I was never like a major fan of theirs. But I do remember hearing their songs, and they were like okay. I didn't like hate them, that's for sure.
Was it
So,
like jam band type stuff?
no,
Like, or
most of the time it was very no, it's more easy listening. It could have been run
it
on an
wasn't like
easy
psychedelic music, right? It was more like jam bandy kind of
like
stuff.
not no, it was more easier to listen to than that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I'll look it up after the show so I can get an idea. But I remember I think I did once. I'm like, ew, I don't like this, and I turned it off immediately.
It might have been music that was more for people who were like maybe stoned or something, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
So, we can go ahead and I wanted to bring up the question of the day or the question of the week.
yes.
I don't think I brought this up last time. But in case I did, let me know. Actually, well, this will fall in line with what you were talking about. So the question was get up late or sleep in, or get up early or sleep in late. So the
Oh, okay.
first,
Sorry, I'll let you finish. Is there
yeah,
more?
yeah, the first response is I love getting up early. The next one is I'd rather sleep in late. The third response is neither because I never sleep. The fourth response is it depends on the situation, and the fifth response is I don't care.
Oh my God. Well, here's the situation. I'm always happy to be up early in terms of like I know I'm going to get more done for the day. I think it's better for your mind, body, and soul to be up early and start the day. But there, I fucking love sleeping. So, which is, and that's why that part of probably the biggest challenge of the job I have now is the waking up at 4:30 part. Because I'm a night owl. Like by nature, I like to sleep in late and go to bed late, and it's not good. So I've really tried to, I'm very trans in that way. Like I'm really trying to transition into a morning person, and I just don't know if it's in my DNA. So I'll say I want to say wake up early because I feel like that's the right answer. But if left to my own devices, I'm sleeping in. Like, guess what I'm doing tomorrow? Sleeping in. Yep, doing
What
it.
it seems to me like it would be more maybe would how about it? It depends on the situation. Would it be the
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
okay? Okay, cool.
That's
Here
fair.
are the results. Uh, 65% said they love getting up early. 12% like they like to sleep in late. 11% said it depends on the situation, and the other 4% said they never sleep, which I don't really believe. But and 8% says say they just don't care. So that was out of 4,500 votes. I would have to say I'd follow it. I don't know. I'd rather sleep in late. Um, and like you, I get it up just at around 4:20 every morning, or
Oh,
about 4:20. So except for the weekends, so I sleep in on the weekends a little bit. So,
what's
um,
sleeping into you though?
well, the first set of reports on the weekends are due until 8 a.m. So I
All
have to get
right,
it.
because I thought you were gonna be like, I get to sleep in. I wake up at 5:30, and I'm like, okay. I know
I was
people like that. I sleep until 6:30 on the weekends. I'm like, no, absolutely no, 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 no. That's not sleeping in, sweetheart. Like,
so I would have to say probably I'd like to sleep in late, or maybe it depends on the situation. So that would be my guess.
okay,
My Now, I don't know if you heard about this. Actually, we talked about it beforehand, but I don't think you'd heard about this before. About the Space Jam movie. I was telling you about this. Hold on a second. I'm trying to bring it up
yeah.
here.
Like, is it Space Jam 2? Is that what it's? Is that
Yeah,
what it is, or is it okay?
yeah. I'm trying to bring up the. I'm trying to where
Okay,
I
okay.
misplaced the article. Yeah, here it is. Here it comes. Gotcha. Got it here. I mean, all right. Let me see. Bring this back up. Give me a second.
No problem.
Um, yeah. Oops, I had it there. There it is. Cool. All right. So
Ew, who is that? Is that like
oh,
Jack White or something?
that's the character on the left.
Yeah.
That's that character is from the movie Clockwork Orange. Have you ever seen it?
You're gonna be disappointed. No, I haven't, but I've heard of it. Don't be
Okay.
mad.
I've never seen it myself, so we're in the
Oh,
same
you
category.
haven't? Okay, I thought you were like, you kind of strike me as like a film snob. So,
Oh,
and
I
I don't mean
I
that in
don't
a rude way. I just feel like you like are someone who likes cinema, and I usually those people are very judgmental when you tell them you haven't seen a classic.
oh, I would never judge someone on that. No, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, when starting in 1997, I devoted my life to my career, and so like movies from 1997 to like 2013, I'm like I hardly know any of them. So
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that makes me feel a lot better. Thank you.
yes. It was because people will say to me, it's kind of funny. Like people will say to me, like, like, "Have you seen such and such movie?" And I'll say, "When did it come out?" And they'll say, "Like 2006." They say, "No, sorry, that's the era that I don't know movies that well." And they'll give me this.
That's very
They'll give me this.
specific.
They'll look at me. I'll say they'll look at me when it'll be a popular movie, and they'll give me like that snobby reaction that you're talking about. So, and they'll say,
Yeah.
you've never heard of this? What's wrong with you?" And it's like I just never have. I don't know. Maybe it just thought maybe because I was doing some other things in my life at the time I thought were more important than watching a movie. I don't know,
Right.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
but
I've heard of like most movies, but I've seen very few. So.
oh, okay, okay. Now there are movies that I'm very up on. Like I'll have trivia about certain kinds of movies. I like to talk about people like I'll tell people about like movies that I've seen a few times. Like so even though I'm not a Star Wars fan, I know some trivia about the older Star Wars movies, the original three from the 70s and 80s. So people will start talking about those, and I'll say, "Did you know this? Did you know this?" Because I just pop out with worthless trivia about the movies. So and like the other movies, like some of the like the Blues Brothers, like that's one of my movies where I have all this worthless trivia. Where if someone brings it up, I'll say, "Hey, I'll talk about how Steven Spielberg made a cameo appearance at the very end of the movie." And people go, "Oh, really? I didn't know that." And then you can point it out, and they go, "I didn't know that was him." So things like that.
Right.
Um, so anyway, Space Jam. I don't know what it's called. Sequel. I don't know what the sequel is. I guess Space Jam 2. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, is going to have a cameo by the character on the left who was in the movie A Clockwork Orange. And apparently in that movie, there was a scene that was very rapey. I don't know exactly what happened. All I know is that a lot of
Now I
people
see
have
why
pointed out,
Pepe Le Pew is in there. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So apparently the people who are making the movie have no problems with having one character who had performed rape in a movie being in their movie. It's not going to be the actual character. It's just going to
Right.
be a caricature of that character. So I guess
Mm-hmm.
a cartoon version, I guess, of that character is going to be in the new movie. But they're worried about having Pepe Le Pew, and so much so that they removed Pepe Le Pew completely from the movie. So and the reason they removed Pepe Le Pew was because he apparently it was offensive to watch him sexually handle a cartoon cat.
Right.
Um,
Or
I I'm not exactly sure why people would get offended for a cartoon cat, but I can tell you right now, my cats are probably completely don't care about the fact that he's fondling a female cat. So it is I, I I don't even think people even care about real cats in real life being sexually harassed. To be honest, I know that they're drawing the correlation between that and women, but I don't know. It just seems like they're obviously they're looking for reasons to be upset. And
of course.
the ironic twist is Pepe Le Pew was completely removed, but this other character who does a rape scene is going to be in the movie without any problems. So
Of course. It is really strange how selective they are with some things and not others. So.
yeah, I've not seen the original movie. I'm never really. I guess it was pretty popular at the time.
Oh, Space Jam?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely saw it. I really liked the soundtrack, I remember, but beyond that, yeah, that was it.
Was it any good?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I think I liked the music more than anything, but I maybe saw it once or twice. Like it wasn't something I was obsessed with, but that's all I can remember.
Okay. The only cartoon movies I've liked are that would be similar to like this would be like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there was another one called Cool World, which is pretty much
Cool.
unknown. Yeah, that's pretty much unknown by a lot of people. Let me see if I can bring that up real quick. 1 second. Cool World was based on a comic strip, and it was here. I'm not going to play anything, but we might be able to get an image of it. Yeah, Cool World was a movie that was very sexualized.
Ooh,
Uh,
is that Brad Pitt?
um, it might be.
Second one down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this right here. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
actual
it
movie.
looks like
Yeah, I
Brad
don't want to
Pitt.
click on these. Unfortunately, I don't want to get
Mm-hmm.
any copyrights here. So, but the you can see the top image there, the woman in there. I forget who does the voice, but she's very sexualized in the movie. So, it's a if you're it's one of those movies that has have an acquired taste to have. But it follows that same kind of formula of having cartoon characters and real life characters intermixed together in a world and things like that. So,
Right, right, okay. What do they call like digital? I forget what that type of animation is called, but I know what you're talking about.
The funny part is the animation isn't done very well, though. If you look at
Yeah,
this,
no, it's not.
you can see it
Yeah,
looks but it's still a fun movie to watch. So, but yeah,
sure.
the Who Framed Roger Rabbit was the movie where did you ever see that one?
No, maybe
1980,
no.
no, I think it was 88. So
With J- Jessica,
the
Jessica Rabbit, was she? No, that's a
yeah,
different
Jessica
thing.
Rabbit was no, it's the same one. I'll
Oh,
bring
it
it up
is
here real
okay.
quick.
Just Roger Rabbit, Jessica. Okay, okay, all right. Okay, yes, I think I have seen that.
Okay, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? There's an image of it right there. Jessica Rabbit
Right,
is the woman right there. This I don't
right.
I don't know what this is. Where are they now? That's obviously a comedy, not real. That's not
Yeah,
real.
that's funny.
But Jessica Rabbit was the wife of Roger Rabbit. She was this overly sexualized woman in the movie.
Right,
So
the red hair and the tatas all pushed up. I remember.
okay, yeah. So that was done very well. I'm curious as to in Space Jam. Do you remember? Um, was the cartoon work blended together very nicely? Was it done very well?
No, no. I mean, when did it come out? Like the mid '90s, something like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
as a kid, it was fun.
Okay.
It,
The
it
reason
is funny how those movies to me like did not age well. They seem, if you've ever gone back and watched like Snow White, you're like, this is garbage. Like Bambi is trash. Like, how did I even watch this? But we're so spoiled now with all the special effects and the animation these days that it literally looks was this made by a child? Like, this is terrible. So
But I will say the effects for Who Framed Roger Rabbit were actually very good. They're actually very good. They added
mm,
a level of the dimension to the cartoon characters that almost gave them depth to them. So it wasn't as flat as the other ones.
okay, right, a little more
So
three-dimensional.
yeah, yeah. And I've seen the making of process of the movie, and they actually did like a lot of like they added a lot of shadows and a lot of other things that normally they wouldn't do just to give it that extra depth. So
Hmm.
but unlike the other movies, which you can see it's obviously flat, it's not really there. This one had a little bit more of a realistic quality to it. So anyway, let me get back to Pepe Le Pew. There we go. So yeah, I guess we're kind of wrapped up on this one, but I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about that? About the Pepe Le Pew being pulled out and the other character being added? I don't even know what the other character's name is, to be honest.
I don't know either. We talked a little bit about Pepe Le Pew on my main show, and it's one of those things where it's like it sounds dumb, and then we kind of watched a clip where you know and again we're looking at it through today's eyes, to a lens of today where you're a lot more aware of stuff, and they're cartoons, but it's like, yeah, he was like forcing himself on a character, and you go, well, who cares? It's cartoons. But it's like maybe that's not the best. But to be honest, it's one of those things where here's how I would put it. Like I look at it now, you go, probably not a good idea, but I literally do not care. Like I'm not gonna make a tweet about it. I'm not gonna write a letter about it. If people ask me, I'll tell them, but I mean, I don't think that that's, the problems we should be focusing on. Um, and just to make this about, I know we're just talking about this movie, but to make it a little bit more broad, and I did hear Candace Owens talking about this a little bit, but I agree. It's kind of like people are almost like bored, like people aren't fighting for the right to like girls to drive, women to drive, girls to go to school, the right to have an education. Like when all those things are kind of like set, like it is in most Western societies, then it's almost like people are bored and they're like looking to cancel cartoons and um, other things that really don't matter in the scheme of things, like the Dixie Chicks changing their name to the Chicks. It's like you're not ending racism by doing that. But But anyways,
Oh, the Candace Owens is full of crap, though. Sorry, I'm not a fan of Candace Owens.
you're not a fan. Oh, I'm a
Not
big
at all,
fan of
not at
her.
all. You know,
What don't you like about her, or is it
the
just everything?
she is a in my opinion, she's just out to make a name for herself. You heard about the whole how she became popular, right? What made her
On
a name?
YouTube.
the whole social autopsy thing. Did you hear about that?
No, what's that?
What she did was she was a far left. She was working basically for the Democrat, not for the Democratic Party, but she was working for the Democratic side. And
I did know that she flipped. Yeah.
right, so she made a website called Social Autopsy, and the videos are still on YouTube, which is surprising. I thought she would have taken them down by now, but maybe she's trying to be somewhat transparent. I don't know, but basically, Social Autopsy. I'm trying to let me see if I can find a link here while we're doing
Yeah,
it.
please do. I mean, I'm a big fan of Candace's, so
What she did was she created a website that would actually dox people. You know what doxing is?
yes, I didn't know that.
And what happened was the people, bring it up as it's not coming up here. YouTube doesn't want me to see it. No, it's not. Wow, that's weird. I'm typing it doesn't even show it there. Okay, here we go. This is the actual video.
Hey guys, it is.
Oops, hold on a second. Let me bring it up here. Here's her actual video. This is before she got famous for what she is now. So, Social Autopsy is the name of the website. If you go there, it's not there anymore. What she did was she collected data about people, and she would say, "We're going to protect against bullies. We're against bullying. I mean, and what you can do is if someone is bullying you online, you give us their information. We'll post it publicly for you, and something to that
So
effect."
we can harass them and stuff.
Yeah, and she created the website, and it didn't officially go public, but all the data was still there already. And all you had to do was do a Google search. I don't know if you know about advanced Google searches. You can just do an advanced search. Well, Google will go through and show you every page that's available to the public. And there was like hundreds of people, at least hundreds, maybe thousands. I don't know, but you could find all these people that she had gotten information on that she was going to expose to the public.
Can you play a little bit of it for me?
Yeah, I guess we can do that. So we got here.
Candace Owens, the founder of socialautopsy.com. We have gotten so many comments, questions, and concerns written in about our database from some of the articles that ran about it, as well as some of the social media work we've been doing trying to spread the word. And we figured, why not get it all in one spot and do a live FAQ? I guess it's technically not live, but you know what I mean.
What year is this?
After
2016.
Yeah, this might be an older video though those re-uploaded. I don't know. It's hard to tell. But that might be right too.
1 year span, if the user that has been submitted hasn't done anything else, hasn't really said anything that's bad, we totally believe in forgiveness and second chances, and we will drop their name from our database forever.
That's the database. The database she's referring to is the information where they would have all the information that they could dox the people with. So
this next question is very alarming to me. People keep writing in asking us, how is this legal? This worries me because I think people are actually shocked that the internet is public. That's the best way that I can answer this question. The internet is public. We are not hacking into your computers or breaking into your houses and stealing hard drives. You guys are putting all this information out there, and we are just aggregating it.
The excuses she's using to how they're allowed to put people's information out to the public. It was all a bunch of crap. So
she would. Let me just get this straight. So to be honest with you, this is new to me. I didn't know anything like this about her. I just thought that she was a lefty and then she switched to the other side. But she basically, people would call into the show and say, "I'm being harassed for being."
No. There was a website. It was an actual website. That's what she's referring to. The website was called socialautopsy.com. And people would submit their information to her, and she would put it into the website, their database, all the info, and she would say, "Oh, well, it's public information anyway." And she would put it into a thing and say, like, if that way you could expose the bully, as she put it, whoever was supposedly a bully, we could expose their information to the public, and that's what the database was. All the information that they would receive to basically shut the person up, so to speak, and.
That's literally the opposite of her whole mantra now.
But she and then if you look at the like and the thumbs up, thumbs down, you can see 62 people like it, and over 1,400 people dislike it. So you can see it was very much, everybody hated it. It was a very vile thing, and it comes into a legality part because she was also talking, from what I remember, she was talking about doing it to kids as well. And when you get below, I don't know if you know about the COPA laws,
No.
um, the Child Online Protection Act. Once you cannot expose any child's information that's under the age of 13 publicly on the internet. That's against the law. So I believe she was talking about doing that as well, which makes it completely illegal. So you're not allowed to gather information about a child that's under 13, expose their information or anything like that. So that's where it becomes that's where the legal factor came in. I'm not sure about that part, so I can't say for sure. I remember hearing something about kids being thrown in there. So if I'm wrong on that, I'm not 100% sure on that one. But
Mhm.
I do know that there was talks about doing it with kids as well. Several people had brought that up, and I don't know if that was actually confirmed. So I need to be careful how I say that. So
Well, I thank you for bringing this to my attention. I'll definitely do more research on it myself.
yeah, the reason I don't like her is because what happened after this, that both people on the right and the left became extremely upset with her, and the left turned on her immediately. And then what happened was like she says, you probably heard her say this. At least she'll say literally she changed her point of view from being a Democrat to a Republican overnight. And the reason I think she did that was because the people on the left turned on her. So she realized she couldn't make a name for herself by being a Democrat anymore. So she realized that maybe if she switched to the Republican Party, people would listen to her and then she could make a name for herself using that instead. I think she did it just so that she could make a name for herself. I don't think she really cares about the things she's talking about. I think she just wants to make a name for herself. Um, and some
I
people
mean,
say,
can it be both? Can it be
I,
both that she's wants to make a name for herself, that she cares, or at least somewhat cares about the issues that she talks about, and see
well,
she's good and getting better at what she's doing. So
Well, the thing is that what she talks about she mostly talks about standard right wing talking points that you can hear most Republicans talk about already. So it's like she's just repeating things that she's mainly already heard. So it's
yeah,
not
but
like,
she also has a unique perspective as a black woman, and I
well,
hate to dive into identity politics because I'm not a fan of it either, but I really think that she would not have had the success that she's had as a black woman in the Democratic Party just because it's oversaturated with people that look like her, right? But
that's
you
the
go
other
to the
thing.
Republican Party and it's somewhat unusual to see, a black, gay woman, whatever, conservative come out and offer a perspective as a person that identifies with those other groups. So I don't think she would have even experienced even just a sliver of the success that she's had switching to the right.
Well,
So
that's the other thing because the people on the right are propping her up because they can say, "Hey, look, she's not white and she's a woman." And so they're the ones that are, like you said, they're propping that would help prop her
oh,
up.
absolutely. Because then it's like, when she came out and when she was talking shit about George Floyd, like, I couldn't do, you couldn't do that, But if she is like a black person is saying, like, listen, this guy was a criminal, like, she had the liberty to say those things. And it was hard to be like, you're racist. Some people will call her like, an Uncle Tom or something like that. But it's hard to call her a racist, and so it gives her this added layer of a massive cushion of protection that most people or most white people don't have. You can't say the same thing that she has because they'll dismiss you as a quote racist, which is not fair. But that's how they play the game.
I know what you're saying. But the point I'm saying though is I think she'll say whatever she can to just to make a name for herself.
I
So
think she's a provocateur, much like Milo Yiannopoulos, absolutely. But I need to investigate more of this. I mean, I really didn't know anything about this at all. So,
okay,
yeah.
yeah. The you can read the comments in there, like the third one, two, three, for third one down. Riley Highland says, "Wow, doxing database. This will make so much easier for me to bully and harass people." I mean, it was very obvious what she was doing there.
Right, right,
And you can see all the people on here that are really angry with her with what she was doing. And this is
right.
anyway, yeah, check it out. I mean, seriously, I'm not telling you to think. I'm just saying, I
No,
don't.
I listen. This is new to me, and I need to do my own investigation. So I appreciate you bringing it to my attention.
Yeah, she's I wouldn't trust her at all. I think
Okay.
I kind of like trust her as much as I trust. She's like the Michael Moore of the right, in my opinion. Now,
That's fair.
Michael Moore likes to make he himself also wanted to make a name for himself doing anything he could, and he succeeded in doing so. So, but he does it on the left. I think but the difference though between her, and Michael Moore is I think Michael Moore does believe more about what he's talking about than she does. I think she's just saying the things she can just to makes it so people listen to her.
Well, I mean, it's a dangerous game, and it's one you can't really play when you start like trying to assume what's in people's minds and hearts. I
Mhm.
don't really know. We'll never know, like, if Candace Owens really cares. How much of an impact is she having is kind of like what I gauge it at. But I'm very reticent and hesitant to be like, oh, this person really cares and this person doesn't care. It's very hard to tell because some people are good liars and some people aren't, and some people aren't, show affection differently. So they may look like they don't care, but maybe they really do. So it's hard to tell what's in people's minds and hearts.
Right. Now, but the main reason I'm saying that keep in mind though is remember she switched her political point of view overnight, and nobody does that. Nobody really does that. How many people do you know actually
Well,
switch their
I
political
don't know.
point
I
of view
mean,
overnight?
when she says overnight, I don't really think that. I mean, of what I've heard of her transition is, maybe she announced it overnight, but I mean, these thoughts were probably ruminating in her brain for a while. Like, is why, the things were clicking and things were kind of changing, and she's looking at things differently. I don't think anybody wakes up and they're like, I have a different value system. I think it's kind of like a breakdown, and maybe publicly she was holding on to her democratic identity because that's what she knew herself to be. But then finally, like, one day it was just like, this is not my truth anymore. I need to come out. That's how
Okay,
I thought, or at least how I've heard her describe it, that she, then came to the conclusion that this wasn't for her anymore. But
I
I'll
got
go
you.
back and I'll do my research.
Yeah, okay. And like when I type it in, watch this. Let's see if I do it. When I type in
Okay.
social autopsy in the search, look at this. It does. YouTube won't even show it anymore. It doesn't even. How do you spell autopsy? SP. Yeah, that doesn't even show it. It doesn't even give you a search for it. You have to actually hit enter to see it, have it come up. So, they're blocking people from being able to see this. I don't know why.
Wouldn't they want people to see this? Because I
That's what
feel like the left
that's
hates
what I'm
Candace
thinking too.
Owens.
Yeah, that's what I think so too. Here's another video.
The human race has never been more connected. It takes a nanosecond, a mere push of a button to share our ideas.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I do agree. It would make more sense for them to show it. I don't know why they're not. That's kind of strange. I don't know why they're not doing that.
Opinions and emotions across the world instantly. But for every cat meme your best friend tweets at you, or for every I miss you comment your grandma leaves on your Facebook wall, there are literally thousands of instances of hate speech being circulated online. Because when communication happens through a screen, and when moments are experienced through...
You see, it's basically under the guise that we're protecting people from bullies. So
that's so bizarre because that's literally the antithesis of who and what she's all about now. I really find this shocking because she's often the target of all of this hate speech now. So the fact that she was trying to dox people is, I mean, it's just kind of shocking because she's all about, you should be able to say, she's a what do you call it? An advocate for free speech. So the fact that she's trying to shut people down, I don't know. It's bizarre, but I'll check it out.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I guess we kind of talked enough about it, but yeah, I like I said, I don't like her and I don't trust her. But I do agree with some of her points though. But I think she's just telling me things that people want to hear in my opinion. So I'm not. I just don't trust
That's
her at all.
fair.
I'm
That's
saying
totally
I don't hate her. I just don't really like her though. So I don't want to say I hate her. I mean, if I said
you don't have to explain it to me. I get it. I get it.
there was I wish I could find her. There was a black female cop, and I don't mean to draw race into this, but she used to make these really good videos about Candace Owens, how she would show how Candace Owens was really fake. If I find them, I can send them to you.
Please do.
She was a cop. I think she was a former cop. She come on and say how much she hated Candace Owens and how Candace Owens was doing this and doing that. And her name was actually found, the woman I'm talking about, because I can't remember her name at the time at this moment. Her name was actually one of the names in the database that they were going to dox. So
Oh wow. Okay. No wonder why she hated her.
Anyway, I guess enough about Candace Owens. So let's see. You had another story you brought up, didn't you? Let me bring it up here. How did you send me to this? Caitlyn Jenner.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So, I don't know if I've told you my position about Caitlyn Jenner. I know you. Do you ever listen to Ben Shapiro at all?
I sure do.
Okay. Ben Shapiro has he says that basically when someone says they're transgender, they're still the gender that they are, but he'll respectfully call them to their face what they want to be called. So, and that's the way I feel too. I think that's, and so Caitlyn Jenner is a guy, and he also respects the fact that Caitlyn changed his name to Caitlyn, and I respect that too. If anyone wants to call, they can change the name to whatever they want to. That's also, that's rude to not call them what they changed their name to. So,
right.
But so anyway, I don't buy into the whole transgender thing, but I do respect people when I'm around them. So
what do you mean buy into? Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
I believe that the people when you're born, they people like to say, they have this thing nowadays where they say you're how do they phrase that? The people from the transgender movement have tried to change it so that the gender you're identified as or assigned
your
at birth.
assigned gender. Yeah.
Yeah, your assigned gender. Yeah, I don't believe that. You are what you are. You can't change what you are. You just have to accept it. So, if you want to change what you are, I have no. With the libertarian part of me says, yeah, go for it. No problems. But you're not assigned anything. You are what you are. You just have to accept it. And if you
I
can't,
see. Like the verbiage is, someone assigned it to you, but in reality, it was just a biological determination of your genes.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you can aesthetically change your appearance like he did, but he's still who he was. He just looks different now. That's all. So,
Sure.
I mean, it's people. I have a cousin that did the same thing, and I grew up with him. I don't like him, but it has nothing to do with his transgender. He was just a jerk when we were younger, so I don't want anything to do with him anyway.
Yeah.
But,
no, that's.
but if
really
I was around him, yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
I
I was just saying. I forgot my thought. I think it was something about being transgender, but yeah, no, I agree with that for the most part. I'm all like you said, the libertarian side of me is like, live your life however you want to live it, but again, there were, your biological sex is not something that was socialized. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, you have to accept it, and just that's all you can do. I mean, you can, like, I'm repeating myself, of course, but you can dress up like a woman. If you're a guy, you can dress up like a woman. That doesn't make you a woman. It's just clothing. You can wear your hair a certain way that's more feminine, and that doesn't make you. It just makes you still a guy that's dressing a certain way. That's all it is. And there's just no way you can't, unless they can actually do something where they say remove someone's brain and put it into a female body or something. At that point, I guess you would be a woman.
I mean, I think that, and again, I'm all about science, so it's not like I'm saying that gender is just a social construction. There's no differences between men and women. I would never make that claim. But I mean, I do feel like some people's brains can be wired differently. Where you feel like you have a female brain stuck in a male body. I think that can certainly happen. And again, some things are, I mean, there's even a spectrum among straight females and straight guys in terms of like how masculine, feminine, or, or how they deal with situations, typically more masculine, typically more feminine. So,
well, I guess that's more of a psychological thing, though. I'm just talking strictly about who you are, physically, your biologically.
But you said you said something about a male brain or something. So
No, no, did I? I didn't. No.
Oh, I
Did
thought
I?
you said
Oh,
something
yeah.
like you're.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you switched it, I'm sorry. Yeah. If you put it, if you swapped, if you could put like if you pulled a man's brain out of his head and put it into a female body, uh, like you did a brain transplant, if something like that was actually possible, then I guess you could at that point you could call him a woman, I guess,
Oh yeah. I
then
think that I just think that that's how they feel, is that they're like that's exactly how they feel, that they're a female trapped in a man's body. And to be honest with you, I mean, the transgender issue, I feel like I mean, it seems like now that gay marriage is federally legal, it seems like the progressive end of that spectrum has moved into the transgender arena, and it's just almost like boring to the like how much ad nauseum we discuss this sort of stuff in the daily like news cycle. I feel like I'm constantly seeing like transgenders in sports and transgender this and the bathrooms and all that sort of shit. Um, but a very, very, very small percent of the population identifies as transgender. So it's actually a really, really small portion of the population. But I, it's funny, like whenever I hang out with people that are more to the right, I'll find myself playing devil's advocate and playing a little bit softer on the left. But then when I'm around people who are extremely liberal, I take the other side. So it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like people that are like, well, if you're born a guy, you're a guy sort of thing. I find myself saying like, listen, how would you feel if you were forced to dress in women's clothing every day? They'd be like, I'd hate it. I'm like, well, that's literally how they feel every day of their lives. Like, let's have a little bit more compassion for the people that really do have, what do they call it? Body what is it? What's the actual term?
Gender dysphoria. Is that what you mean?
Gender dysphoria. Thank you. Right. And then with people who are like super liberal, who say, you're a woman, you decide to be a woman. And I go, well, that's also not true. Like, so I feel like I kind of like I enjoy going on the opposite side of how the people around me are thinking about things. So,
well, let me ask you this about the actual physical aspects of transgender, how you feel about this.
sure.
I'm going to assume you're a libertarian person like yourself would say that a person has the right to physically remove parts of their body if they want to and alter them in any way if they choose to do so, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and anybody, right? Would you say that's correct?
Not children. Don't be giving
What? Yeah,
kids
we'll leave
puberty
the kids out of this.
blockers. No,
Yes,
no,
yes,
no, no. Nothing
yeah.
with
No, they
children.
would leave.
No,
Yeah, well,
nothing
let's
with
leave that.
children.
That would be a completely different discussion. I agree with you on that. The
Oh,
children
okay.
part
I
is
thought that's where
different.
you were going. I was like,
No,
anybody?
no, absolutely.
I was like, don't try to catch me in that trap, buddy.
No.
No, no.
So what I'm actually leading up to, we'll keep it strictly to adults. That children would be
Okay.
a completely different conversation.
Okay.
Um, so we have a person who's an adult who wants to change his sexual organ so he has a female organ instead. So he wants to have breasts put on and all that. You're completely for that, right? Everything's good, right? Because as long as they're not being coerced in any way and they're doing it of their own free will, they want to do that. That's good, right?
Yes, as a doctor, if I'm thinking it like I'm a plastic surgeon, I'm gonna need to protect myself as a physician. I would want they would have to be actively going to a psychologist, and they would have had to have been going for a few years. I would also like to see I wouldn't want to go from someone who was living as a man and then came to my office and said, now I want breasts and cut off my dick. I'd be like, no, why don't you live your life as a woman for a year or two?
Okay.
There's a little bit of, you know what I mean? Like a progression of, you're not going to go from Gary to now I have tits. I think that you should live your life as a woman. Maybe no hormones, or maybe hormones, but you're not altering genitals. And then the last step would be, gender reconstruction or whatever. But okay. But anyways, go on. So at the end of the day,
Okay.
yes, I think that you should be able to do whatever you want to do. Yes.
Okay. So how do you feel about people who suffer from BIID then? Do you know what that
What's
is?
that? No.
Body identity integrity disorder.
Is that like what's that?
It's a disorder basically where the person feels compelled to remove a part of their body, and they want to remove or maybe transform part of their body in some way.
I've
So
heard about that shit. I didn't know what it was called. Like people who feel like they should be handicapped, like they should
yes.
have one leg, and they
Hmm.
want to remove it because their identity is they're a one-legged person. Like I don't know. Yeah, I've heard about stuff like that. But go on, go on.
Well, how do you feel about that? Should they be allowed to do that as well?
Yeah,
From
I don't know what
from
physician would want to do that, but if you want to cut off your own leg, I mean, it's your fucking body. So yeah, I
yeah,
would
but
say, yeah.
we're going back to the man and his penis. A doctor is going to physically remove a perfectly functioning part of a body that doesn't need to be shouldn't be touched. You have no problems with that, but you think that don't you think that the person who has a perfectly functioning leg that should also be treated the same way?
I just said yes. I think yeah,
Oh
you
yeah,
should be able to do
okay,
that. I
sorry.
said
I thought. Oh, sorry, I missed that. I missed
no,
what you said.
I'm logically consistent here. If you want to cut your leg
Cool,
off,
cool.
I said I don't know if you'd find a doctor who'd be willing to do it, but
Gotcha,
you
gotcha. I
should
missed
be
it.
able
Sorry.
to. Yeah. I'm thinking
Okay,
from the
so
doctor because if someone came to me and I was a physician, like, please cut off my leg, I'd be like, yeah, no, yeah, no. But you should be able to do it like if you want to go in the garage and hack it off with an axe, like you shouldn't go to jail for it, is what I'm saying. Like,
there's also a question about the doctors as well, lead up to that. But okay, so we're in agreement on that. I agree as well. If the
yeah,
person,
absolutely. You won't find a doctor
absolutely,
that will do it, but it's like
okay,
you should be able
okay.
to do it. Yeah.
So basically, the laws, in my opinion, if they're saying it's okay for transgender people to perfectly remove a perfectly functioning body part, why shouldn't people? What I'm saying is, why shouldn't people who suffer from BIID be allowed to do the same thing?
I
That's
mean,
and
that's what yeah,
it
plastic
should be legal for
surgery is
both, right?
predicated on that. Why do people get rhinoplasties? You don't. They'll say they have deviated septum. They don't. They just don't like their nose. People get breast implants. People get liposuction on their chin. Like that's these aren't things that need to be done. People alter their bodies in all sorts of different ways. I'm trying to think of like popular, yeah, breast implants, calf implants, butt implants, like anything where you're enhancing the body
Right.
and putting it through trauma for no good reason is,
But
is
that's legal.
damaging.
But that is legal. But people who suffer from BIID don't have that freedom. In fact, they don't, and I think that they should have that freedom, just like everyone
They
else.
absolutely should. But going along your premise of it's functioning perfectly well, why are we fucking with it?
Yeah,
I mean, we're already doing that. So I agree with you. Let's just take it to the next step. If you want to cut off your fingers, like you should be able to do that for sure.
okay.
Um, I
But
just
then
think, yeah, good.
go ahead. Okay, I was gonna say about getting to the doctors. Now that
Yeah.
a doctor coming and saying that they're going to operate the Hippocratic Oath, I don't know exactly how it's worded, but I would believe if a person that's transgender comes and says, "I want you to cut off my penis," how could a doctor ethically say, "Yes, I will do that without any problem," or "Yes, I'll do it because you want me to," because he's then ruining or he's then removing a perfectly functioning body part that doesn't need to be removed. So
Yeah. Again, like,
does that violate the ethical aspect of being a doctor?
but you have to understand, like, you're correcting a mental disorder, or helping to correct a mental disorder. So you got to look at like the full body of health. You can't just go, well, this is a functioning body part. It must be good for this person. Maybe a transgender person that wakes up and sees a penis every day, that's causing them a lot of trauma because they feel like they're stuck in they're really a woman. So seeing that it doesn't correspond with how they view themselves, and that's causing them a lot of emotional damage. So I mean, we really have to look at the full bill of health and mental health, and that certainly goes beyond just a physically functioning penis, or body part in general. And I discussed before, and like you did, I mean, we're already doing plastic surgery. We're already fucking with shit that doesn't need to be fucked with. So at this
Right.
point, by all means, cut off a dick if you want to cut off a dick. My whole thing is that I don't know if you've heard about this, but and they won't report this. You really have to dig for it. But a lot of people, at least a lot of especially transgender women, so born male turned to female, end up being just like gay men. And I think it's vice versa, the same thing, where it's like they think they're transgender when they're younger, and they start doing all of these procedures, going through hormone therapy, only to realize that that was a mistake and they were really in the right body, but just they were just like gay men or gay women, you know?
Yeah, that's another problem. Yeah, that's another major
Right.
problem. It also comes
So,
with people who are simply cross dressers, men who just want to dress like women. They're told, people look at them and go, oh, you want to be a woman, and then they start to convince them that they need to have a sex change, and it turns out no, they never wanted the sex change all along. They were just convinced that they were supposed to do so, and then they regret it afterwards, majorly.
right. You really have to dig for that, because nobody wants you to know that people are regretting their transitions. It's like, I remember there was this woman on Rogan that was talking about that, and she got fucking blasted, and so did he for having her on. But she was saying that a lot of times, like in these communities, say like in San Francisco or, you know, Portland, Oregon, places like that are really, really super liberal, these people get like such a massive applause for coming out as transgender, like not only by, you know, their families, their community, because they're so progressive and they're looking for ways to be more progressive. And if they have a child in a school or a child of their own that's transgender, they really put them on a pedestal, and they're like, wow, this person's so brave. Like they become almost like a martyr for the cause. And then turns out like they're not that thing, and then they feel bad like coming out of the closet as cisgendered. Like, you know, so it's such a bizarre like situation. But I don't
the
know.
Yeah, the other aspect that I've found, and I've not done any research, just basic reading and things like that. So I'm not an expert on anything. I shouldn't have to preface it like that, but basically, there's all support groups are, from what I understand, are not good in these situations, because
Why is
uh,
that?
support groups. This is something I learned. You might laugh when I bring up this topic, but it's similar to that when it comes to alien abductions. What happens? Support groups with that are also not good. What happens is there's these support groups are already convinced that they themselves that something needs to be done. It's not there to look at things objectively and say, well, maybe we should or maybe we shouldn't. They're already convinced that something should be done, and they won't look at things from any other point of view. So what happens is people who are transgender or who are maybe they don't consider themselves transgender go into these support groups. Maybe it's just a simple cross-dresser or someone who's gay, and then what happens is these support groups will say, oh, no, 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 you are transgender and you should have the operation done. And they convince the people to have that done. And then then they come out and they regret it later. The same thing is with the alien abduction people. I discovered this about 10 years ago. What happens is people will have these weird dreams and they don't know what's going on. So a psychiatrist or a psychologist will say, why don't you go to check out one of these alien abduction groups? And the group's already convinced that everyone's being abducted by aliens. So the person goes in and
Right.
those people say, oh, you were abducted by aliens. And so then the person they put them under hypnosis and they say, oh, see, you remember now, you're abducted by aliens. And everyone goes, and they convince the person that they were abducted by aliens whether most likely, I don't believe that those are real in the first place, but now this person is now believing that they were abducted by aliens when they weren't in the first place. So it's similar in that way.
Right.
So support groups I'm not saying all support groups are like that, but if you hear the word support group, it's something that if you're in this kind of category, it's something that you should really look into before you just go to them. You know what I'm saying? If you're
It's just
someone,
so challenging. It's because it's like, where do you go for help? You know, you're confused. You go to a support group because you think you might be different. But then if you question, you know, going into that group or the whole reason why you're in it, then they're also fucking you, because then they become the pressure to make you try to stay in. Like, it's just kind of crazy. So.
right. And I have looked up this, there's a guy, I forget his name. He was convinced that he was supposed to have a sex change at a young age. And he changed to be a woman during the 1980s. And then he came back out and realized it wasn't him. He regretted it. So he came back and you can't really change back to being a fully a man, so to speak, because once your sexual organ is gone, it's gone permanently. You can't bring it back.
Yeah.
So, but he's out there and I forget his name. I can actually look it up here while we're talking. Hold on, let me bring this down here. He has a website called sexchangeregret.com.
Wow. Okay.
And this is where I'm getting some of these stories from. Let me see. I'm not going to bring up the website. Hold on a second. Yeah, here it is. I'm bringing it up on YouTube. Here it is right here. This is a guy, Walt Hayer. Walt Hayer's his
The
name.
old guy?
Yeah, very old. Yeah, he had his sex change back in the 80s. So,
So he
if
was
you
a
look
guy.
at,
He was born male, had a sex
yeah,
change as a female, and now he's a male again.
exactly. Yeah, if you look at the second video down, you can see the picture as progression. The left picture is as a kid. That's him as a woman, and that's him as a man again on the right. So,
Interesting. Did he? I'm sorry. How far along did he go? Did he cut off his penis?
oh yeah, he was full. Oh yeah, he went full.
Oh my god.
Yes. So,
Did he have
um,
breasts taken, like put in and then removed, or?
I believe so. I do know I do know his penis was removed for sure. He definitely said that. So, but I assume he had the breast. I from what I remember seeing, I've
Oh
seen interviews with
gosh.
him, and he went the whole. He did everything, the whole route. And what his daughter apparently wouldn't speak to him at first for a while. I don't know if they made up after a while.
Wait,
But
wouldn't speak to him when he changed back or when he became a woman?
when he changed to being a woman, she wouldn't talk to him anymore because of that. So
Is
I
that
don't.
part of the reason you think he changed back?
No, I don't think so. No, I think what I remember, he changed back because he realized that he was never transgender in the first place. What happened was when he was a child, his grandmother dressed him up in dresses, and so he grew into basically it sounded like he was just a cross dresser. So his grandmother liked to dress him up in little frilly dresses, and he grew to like it. So as he got
Mhm.
older, he interpreted that as meaning that he wanted to be he was actually meant to be a woman. So when he went through the process and came back out and realized nope, he was not. It was just a matter of basically being someone who liked to wear dresses, and that's why he backed out and went back to being a man again. So
Wow, what a story.
oh, if you have a chance, if you want to really see some good videos, I won't play this. I don't want to get copyright on this. This right here. The Heritage Foundation. This video right here, he talks about it, and this whole video by the Heritage Foundation gives you a lot of information about what's going on, the stuff you won't
Okay.
hear on the left. And that's of course I'm getting a lot of my stuff from this as well. So, but I can send you some of these links if you want to check it out.
Yeah,
But
that'd be great.
yeah, he and there's a woman on here that speaks. I forget which one it is on here. But she said her daughter changed to being a boy, and she was I don't I can't remember the whole story, so I can't comment on that one. I haven't seen it in a while. But there's a mother is talking about how her daughter made a transition, and how it was hard to go through and things like that. So, but it's the Heritage Foundation broke this up into little segments. So I'll try to find you the links, and you can check them out when you got some free time. But
Yeah,
and
that'd be
Candace,
great.
I forgot Candace Owens interviewed him as well. So
Oh,
she was.
interesting. Well, look at that, two birds.
I watched that show. Actually, it was pretty good. It was actually a
Did
pretty
you?
good show.
Okay.
I
I'll
do. I
definitely
don't like.
check that out.
I'm not a fan of Candace Owens, but once in a while she does have a good guest on, so I'll watch her show when she interviews the people.
Sure,
So,
sure.
but anyway, yeah, check it out. I think you and I are both basically in agreement on a lot of things when it comes to that. So,
I think so too.
yeah. And the whole transgender movement. I mean, it didn't really become real popular until Caitlyn Jenner changed. What was that, 5 or 6 years ago? I think that's when the whole thing gained momentum, wasn't it?
Yeah, I feel like it really we started really focusing on trans issues once it was federally legal. Gay marriage was federally legal. I think that I remember when that happened. That was a big thing. I want to say 2015, and then shortly after that, it switched from gay issues to trans issues, and that's when everybody started getting on all crazy about it.
Gotcha. In the whole marriage thing, that's another debate altogether. The government shouldn't be regulating if people should be married or not in the first place. That wasn't even a thing when the country was first formed. So I forget when that started. Anyway, so getting back to Caitlyn Jenner, no, this is a run for the governor's office. This is how's that going? Have you been keeping tabs on this one, Governor Newsom? I know they were like
No, I just heard about it today that she was thinking about making a run for governor.
The like, is this oh, how about the recall election? How's that? Are they actually going through with it?
Oh, with Gavin Newsom?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I knew that there's been petitions. I really don't think it's gonna happen though, because he's like, oh, we're gonna open up fully by June 2nd or something. So I feel like they're really trying to boost the economy again, get things running, because he realized how much, he's in a lot of shit water right now, and he's trying to swim out of it because the state really took a dump. So
This is similar to, what was that, 2003, when that other governor of California was recalled. And do you remember that?
2003.
I think it was 2003, and that's
who
when
was it?
I don't know who the governor was, but that's when Arnold Schwarzenegger became governor. I don't. That's why he became governor.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
Because they had a recall, and they had to do another election, and like all these other people were, out saying, I'm going to be. There was like something like 100 people, like a lot of celebrities. One of them was who's the Gary? What's the kid on Different Strokes? That little guy. He was
Gary Coleman.
Gary Coleman. That's it. Gary Coleman. He was one of the ones that was running. I remember that. So So yeah, this is not. I guess this isn't new for California, obviously. So, but anyway, and anything else on here? No.
No, nothing really. I mean, I don't even know if it's really going to
here it is.
happen, but
Here it is right here.
maybe,
2003. Yeah, I'm sorry. Here it is right here.
Gray
2000.
Davis.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah. I like the
yeah,
name
he
Gray. That's kind of cool.
He was recalled and replaced by Republican Arnold Schwarzenegger, former bodybuilder. Then they said, oh, this is kind of an interesting bit of trivia. Then they said, I'm going to lead up to something with this. After that, they were saying maybe Arnold should run for president, but he can't run for president because he wasn't born an American citizen, right? But did you know how many presidents in this country do you do you know how many presidents there are that were not born American citizens? That were actually president of the United States?
That were not born in America?
That were not born an American citizen.
Oh, I don't know. 0? I don't.
7, at least 7, including George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. They were not born, and there was no United States when they were born. They were not American citizens. So.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's a technicality. But they were born in America.
Yeah, they're born. Yeah, they're born here. Yes, but that's not how the exception. I was always wondering, why was that? How were these people able to get past the law? And I had to look it up. Basically the law, the Constitution is written so that it says that you must be born an American citizen in order to be president of the United States. The exception is if you're already in the United States when the law was enacted. When the law was enacted, they were already in the United States. They were already born. If they were born prior to the law being enacted, so they were born prior to the
workaround. Yeah.
So that's how they were able to get away with it. I was always wondering, when I was a kid, I was like, you have to be an American citizen, but obviously George Washington could not be an American citizen.
Sure. There's no America.
So the whole thing's, it's actually kind of silly. I mean, if you're gonna, say something like that, then why not just remove it in the first place? It's kind of silly. Anyway, why not just let anyone do it then at that point? But anyway, that was just one of those little trivia things. All right. Well, I guess that's we can just wrap that one up. But anyway, those are things you can check out. I can send you some of the links and everything for that. So
yeah, that'd be great.
All right. So I guess we can go ahead and wrap everything up unless you have anything else you want to talk about.
No, I think that's good. Wow, we've done almost 2 hours. That's great.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, that was the Anna Hummel Factor, episode number 2.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thanks for being on, and thanks for everyone for watching. I didn't see any questions that were really relevant to what we were talking about, so I didn't bring them up. So, but there were some people up in comments saying hi and everything. So I back everybody. Usually I say hi back in the comments. I just didn't do it this time. So, but anyway, thanks Anna for being on, and we'll be on next week, most likely on Wednesday is what we're looking at.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Okay, hang on for a second while I end this.
Yep.